the game has changed not too long ago. Like so I became a software engineer in 2022, just before AI became all the rage. And now like I almost exclusively use AI. Like it's such a big difference. I'm Mindy Weik. I'm a software integrations engineer at Postman, working mostly on the like front end marketing sites that you see whenever you're not logged in. And I also do a lot of work with women in tech in Colorado in particular. And I have a podcast, the Work in Progress podcast, where we talk all about human development in tech. I also write a blog. I do all sorts of things. But yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, welcome back
Yeah.
to Software Engineering Tales. I'm really glad that you could make it today. And we actually spoke together here on this show, I think like 15, 16,
Yeah.
17 months back,
Something like
if I'm correct. So I think a lot of
yeah.
things happened since then, because you are now in a different company, you are maybe a different person. So if you was about to just pinpoint the biggest change for you as a software engineer, what it would
I mean,
be
I think the biggest
basically.
change is in July of this past year, I took on a new role, so I joined Postman. I was previously working on mostly like building APIs, and now ironically, I don't do that anymore. No, I do a lot of like connecting our tools with third-party tools. Yeah, so like totally different. More so working on the front end, but doing a lot of like back end-ish work, so sort of connecting the dots. So the work is a little bit different. The people are different. The company is different. I think those are the big ones. And I guess kind of more meta, broader scale, at least, I don't know if you want to get into this, Pavel, but I just wrote a post about how like the game has changed not too long ago. Like so I became a software engineer in 2022, just before AI became all the rage. And now like I almost exclusively use AI. Like it's such a big difference. So I think that's another big change since the last time we talked, at least for me.
It's great that you use it a lot, because I'm not that lucky, because our tools are still very limited when it comes to AI. So just some tinkering on side projects. But I really want
Yeah,
to dive into that. But
sure.
let's wait a bit and do that a bit later, because I want to talk a little bit more about this like transition. So is or are you still feeling like a career switcher, or are you more feeling like, okay, now
Yeah, I
I'm a
mean,
software
going on
engineer?
pretty much 4 years now, I feel like I'm a software engineer now. But it's interesting because there are definitely still aspects of my past lives that pop up. Like right now, I do a lot of because I'm like sort of doing this in between thing that's sort of vague and nebulous. I actually work with a lot of different teams, so a lot of that collaboration, that like communication work that I've done over the past several years has definitely come up knocking a lot lately. And I've also been doing a lot of writing of documentation, which when I was working in support before becoming an engineer, I did a lot of like writing both for internal teams and then also for customers and people who would be like creating a tutorial for someone who would be using our tools. So yeah, I think those are some
Yeah.
things remain the same, but most of it is like I'm just a software engineer now.
Yeah. And is there some moment, or like a period in the past you can identify when it finally clicked and you were like, yeah, I I,
That's a
I,
good
I
question.
can nail it?
I think in some ways it happened pretty early on because I feel like my boot camp did, I feel like, prepare me pretty well for having conversations about tech, for being able to go in and solve problems, which was a benefit to me. Um, So I think it was pretty early on that I was like, yeah, I'm doing this. Of course, littered with or sprinkled with moments of like doubt and uh, do I know what I'm doing?
Yeah,
And of course, there's always things that come up that you just don't know the answer to, and you have to search for. But that's par for the course. And I think it did happen probably within that first or second year, maybe closer to that second year.
yeah, yeah. Is there some belief or some skill principle that you think junior developers overestimate the impact
That's a
of?
good question too. I mean, not everybody like comes in on equal footing, I think. Like some people are self-taught, some people have various like degrees of boot camp knowledge, and some people start off with like an internship or something like that, or so I think it's hard to have one thing in particular, but I do think, at least with the folks that I've talked to in the last couple of years in particular, there's this feeling of like I don't know what I'm doing, which is normal, but also like I think you
Yeah,
know more than you think you do is something that I've been trying to instill in anybody who I've been talking to recently who like I don't know. Like I think you know more than you think you do. And I especially if you're really excited about it and you're really interested in what you're doing, like you are going to pick up on those things. And especially in the beginning when I first started and I was having like my first technical conversations about the projects we were working on, um, I do feel like, how do I want to word it? I do feel like there were, I decided to speak up even though I didn't know the full answer. And I feel like that helped a lot, both with making sure that I solidified what I did know, but then also like more quickly having a feedback loop of correcting what I had wrong. Or what maybe was like a little misguided
yeah,
or something like that. So I think we know more than we think we do, and actually trying to like have conversations about it helps a lot with solidifying that.
yeah. Every time like speaking up and asking stupid questions,
I'm
that's
a huge fan
that's
of
the way
stupid
to
questions
go.
because there are
I
none.
think.
Just like that was one thing I think I did really well in my first role is I just asked all sorts of questions and I was willing to be wrong. Like even I was talking with my therapist recently, and even just by saying like I might be wrong, but like having that at the beginning kind of opens you up for that feedback, like internally. So if you are wrong, it doesn't hurt as bad because you know you might be wrong, but you want to sort of figure out where you stand. Like, am I incorrect? Am I missing something? I like to add that one too a lot. I might be missing something, but here's what I think. Because I think it just sort of
Yeah,
gives you like a pathway to travel down that road.
yeah, yeah. Okay, let's dive into like your
Mm-hmm.
now daily work and the relationship with AI because
Yep.
that's really interesting for me. So
Oh boy.
what's the impact?
Well, over the last probably 8 to 10 months, I've been trying a lot of different things just to see like what's what, which models do I like, which like combinations of tools do I like. And right now I'm using Claude Code, which has been pretty awesome. Um, and I use it both sometimes in the terminal on its own and sometimes within VS Code currently. And they're both pretty great, both options. I was a little hesitant on the terminal at first just because it feels weird to not be able to look at the code, but if you, at least I have found, if I have enough knowledge of that area of the code base, and I did specifically tell Cloud Code like I need to learn. I would like to learn, so like I need to see everything that you're doing. And so it gives me a diff that I can look at of like the changes. And my team has also been really embracing lots of comments, which I know sounds a little like not like clean code, but when using AI, it's really helpful to get that context of like, why was this change made? Like, I was just
Yeah,
talking yesterday with someone about, oh, they were going to make a change over something that I did, which wasn't a big deal. It was just like a small addition. But I was like, oh, wait, it might not be necessary anymore, but I did add this specific thing into the test file to help. Like, I added something for making tests in serial so that they would be in order because we were having some issues with
yeah,
like race conditions and stuff. But anyway, that's not important. The important
Yeah.
thing is I didn't add that
Yeah.
context in there, so the AI didn't know, my teammate didn't know. So adding lots of comments has been super helpful, even though it seems excessive.
Yeah. One thing that I'm worried about, like really worried about, is that our role will shift
Mm-hmm.
towards, being the editor. Like, like, of course, you will make the architectural decisions and you are making the specifications behind, but then your day might turn into just reviewing a lot of
Yeah,
AI generated code. And that's the point where I might consider another career switch. Is it something
I,
that's going
that's
to
a great
happen,
question.
you think, or
I don't know.
what's the reality?
Um, I do feel like I definitely do a lot more of reviewing, like you were saying, because I also use it on my personal projects as well. I do have a project that I am trying to work on. Like I want to just work on it by hand, but I will say the urge to just lean on AI because it's taking me so long to get to it is there. Um, but that's also sorry, good.
How sorry to interrupt, but how much of the code that you generate for that project you actually really understand?
Well,
Like,
because I specifically have told my tools that I want to learn, I feel like a lot more of it is natural language as opposed to like reading the code. And there are definitely times where I say, "Hey, I would like to know what's going on here. Can you give me more context or explain it line by line?" That's another one we use pretty often on my team, just to make sure we know what the heck is going on. Um, I mean, there's definitely times where I'm like, I'm just trying to move fast. I don't care. Um, just kind of glance over it, make sure things look okay. But then there's also times where I dig in a little more deeply, especially if it's like something new or big or fixing something. I don't know. I don't know if I answered your question, but I feel like a lot of it is AI
yeah,
generated, but I at least read like at least 90% of what I produce that way.
yeah, yeah. And just thinking what it actually means for, like, juniors and and people
Yeah.
who are coming fresh into the field. Like, can you imagine, like, if you were supposed to start today with these AI tools and everything? I don't know. It might be easier for, like, understanding. It can explain you, as it said, line by
Hmm.
line, everything and so on. But on the other hand, the cognitive load is, at least for me, it's quite insane when, I'm just messing around on some side
Hmm.
projects with codecs from ChatGPT, and it's awesome, but yeah, the cognitive load sometimes
Yeah.
is like
You're not wrong, and I have thought a
hell.
lot about that because I read something, I don't remember where, but I read something recently that was talking a lot about how, like, we are turning into the architects, which is great for people who have that knowledge and that, like, have accumulated that understanding. But yeah, if I were to start today, I feel like for junior engineers currently, because this is kind of how things are, I would lean really heavily into talk to me line by line, like talk to me about the pros and cons, talk to me about, what are some problems that might come up with this. And that's what I try to do now because I'm still learning every day. I definitely don't know everything, and so personally that's what I lean into, being not the expert yet. And I hope that's what juniors will lean into because I don't foresee it backtracking personally, but yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to accumulate that knowledge in some other fashion, as opposed to like writing it yourself. It might just be vibe coding safely. I don't know if that's possible, but that's kind of what I'm thinking is like people will
Yeah,
have to take the initiative to ask those questions and figure out what's going on under the hood.
yeah. What's the biggest, like, mental shift for you, uh when coming from, more junior to, let's say, mid-level and senior level software
I
engineer?
think, as I mentioned before, like I liked to ask a lot of questions, which I still do. Don't worry. But I think I am taking more of those questions and internalizing them first now. So I have a lot more curious questions like, what would happen if I do this? Or what would happen if I do that? Or like now I'm solving bigger problems than just building an API. So it's also, like I said, just asking myself more questions before reaching out to the team. Whenever I am reaching out now, because I kind of do my own thing, but within a team structure. So typically when I'm asking questions, it's like feedback on something, or I'm thinking about doing this little side project. How do we feel about that? So I think that's definitely been part of it. So taking a lot more initiative, I guess, but like taking more of it on myself first before reaching out, and not in a way that it's like I'm embarrassed or like I'm just not really sure. I just try it myself first and then ask whenever I get stuck, I guess.
Yeah. 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 And what about like, mental health and balance and some burnout prevention? Are you
Yeah,
struggling
sometimes.
sometimes?
So actually, I think if I recall correctly, because I was wearing my Seattle sweatshirt, if I remember, it was just before I was going to the Pacific Northwest to do a talk, if I recall. And right around that time, I went through a huge personal shift. I got my ADHD diagnosis. I started seeing my therapist. Shout out to therapy, it's great. Um, I'm medicated, and so like that was a big shift for me. So burnout like rammed me hard into that. Like I had to go through that phase in order to be able to come out. So now I'm a lot more aware of like, hey, I'm starting to feel irritable. I'm starting to feel tired. I'm starting to feel just not myself or not great. And so being more aware of those now has helped me to know when to pull back. I'm still not excellent at it. Like it still happens. But I feel like I'm able to, instead of it getting like all the way up here, I'm able to like somewhere in the middle figure out like, okay, I'm going into that phase and I
Yeah.
don't want to be there again. So just having more self awareness has been really huge for that.
Yeah. Is the, your side projects, and you also create some content, and you are active in communities and so on. Is it part of that
Yeah,
system?
I actually, so after I got my new role, like at first I was like, yeah, I can just keep going because I'm excited and energized, but very quickly it turned into like, I need to pull back because the mental load of learning all these new things, new code bases, new people, new culture, um, it was pretty intense. So I did have to pull back. I'm just starting to get back in the swing of my Colorado Women in Tech events. I'm starting to organize some of those again. I've been creating podcast episodes here and there. I've slowed down a lot. I was doing weekly at first, which was definitely not sustainable. So I've gotten a couple this
Yeah.
year so far. Um, I definitely have pulled back also on LinkedIn. Like I'm still there and I'm still posting, but just definitely not as consistently. Um, and then for the side projects, I'm actually leaning more heavily into the I don't remember if we talked about it last time, but I'm working on Audition Cat, which is a CRM for acting and performing professionals, and we are finally like at a phase where we're moving into like alpha testing, which is exciting. So I'm
Cool.
changing, I'm shifting and changing my priorities is the long and short of it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's cool. I face it. when when I say growth, what does it mean for you right
Oh,
now?
that's a good one too, Pavel. Um, hmm. I think growth right now at this exact moment means like baby steps in a direction. Um, because it happens slowly. It's like a little bitty snowball effect. But you can also shift gears. So you might have a snowball this way for a little bit. You might have a snowball this way for a little bit. But it's consistent change, and it's consistently looking for something better, whether it's like something I want to better about myself, something I want to learn. I think that's what growth means for me.
Yeah.
Sorry, doggos.
That's- yeah. So when I you know I was thinking a lot lately about like what does it mean to be a senior software engineer, what seniority means, and so on. And I did a bunch of videos on that topic. So what does
That's
it mean
another good
for
one.
you? How do you recognize a senior,
Yeah, I
person in
think
our field?
I'm actually working on like getting the official title because I think a lot of what I already described to some degree is part of what I think of, which is like having more of that internal discussion, more of that like those curious moments where you try to like poke holes in things and try to find the better solutions, whatever they may be. Um, but there's also an aspect of training and coaching and teaching others, which like I'm on a team with mostly seasoned individuals, so it's a little hard to teach each other. Um, but like finding opportunities to share, so that might be documentation, that might be like small videos or whatever it is to show your teammates or any junior folks on the team something that they may not have been aware of. But I think a lot of it is so teaching, approaching things with more curiosity and poking holes to find better solutions, and also oh, I had a third thing. Where did it go? Darn it, I lost it. But those things.
Yeah. Never mind. Never mind. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
let's get back a little bit. You switch careers before your software engineering journey. You were doing real estate,
Mm-hmm.
if I remember correctly, and then your first job was actually in real
No,
estate, right?
I've done all sorts of
Like,
stuff.
no,
I was.
I thought that your first like software
Oh
engineering job
yes,
was
yes. I'm
something to do
sorry.
with
Yes,
real
I
estate as a
misunderstood.
domain.
Yeah. So my first role was
Yeah.
at a real estate SaaS company. Yes.
Yeah. So because then I assume that the knowledge of the domain is actually advantage
Yes.
for
Yes,
junior
definitely.
person coming into the field. But after a few years, you switched your employer. You are now working for like normal software tech company. Uh, is there still some bits and pieces from your previous careers that gives you some edge
That's a
or
good question. I
advantage?
think, well, right now, working with Postman, our users are developers, software engineers for the most part. So it's kind of nice because I know the domain. I do that. So that is a nice aspect of it. Um, I don't think that like real estate comes in particular, but while I was working in real estate, I did a lot of work with contracts and like following the rules, if you will, because there are a lot of them. And there are a couple of projects that I've worked on that involve a lot of that. So I do think that some of those aspects, like kind of like I said at the beginning, like some little things keep showing up. Some of the things that I've learned along the way have definitely helped. But yeah, it's definitely a different domain. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, okay. For me, part of like, or there is a connection between like the knowledge of the domain and like the ownership of like features and the stuff that we build. Can you recognize some pattern or some like changes in your relationship to ownership
I
and
think
ownership itself?
in some ways I've actually maintained a very similar approach because so in my first role as a software engineer, I was working with Twilio, which is a third party for calling and texting. If you're not familiar, and um, so kind of going back to what I was saying, like third parties, vendors, and that's pretty much what I work with now, but just on a bigger scale, like many more vendors at once. So I actually ended up taking a role that was very similar. I integrate other tools into the tool that we're using. So yeah, it's actually a very similar role, but instead of building an API specifically to connect with it, I'm just connecting in multiple different ways. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
going
just
bigger.
going
I
bigger.
scaled.
Yeah, going
Yeah.
bigger, going bigger. What would be the, if you imagine yourself in, let's say, 3 to 5 years, what would be the version of yourself
Oh
that would
goodness.
make you really proud?
That's a good variation because, as I mentioned, when I first started talking about AI, the game has changed, and I've had a couple of people ask me like, "Where do you see yourself?" And I'm like, "I don't know because it's changing very quickly." But I like your question. What version would make myself proud of myself? Right. Um, I
Yeah,
think that's a really good one, and I haven't given it thought on that level, but I think like I really enjoy what I'm doing right now. I'm having a lot of fun, and I think I keep trying to reach for bigger and bigger projects. So I think what would make my future self proud is to like eventually be a big part of one of those really big projects, or like continuing growth to a different area, or like maybe adding more security. I've been having a lot of interest in security lately, so potentially learning that, or like just continuing to expand my
yeah,
skill set. Maybe some DevOps that's been on my radar for a while. Um, yeah, something a little bit bigger, I think, is the next step.
yeah. And that's actually connected to my last or almost last question, and that's what kind of engineer you
Yeah,
are actually becoming.
that's a good one too. You have great questions. um, I think I guess I'm kind of gonna, yeah, lean into what I just said, which is like slowly working on bigger and bigger projects. So as I grow, as I learn more, I'm taking on like things that I never would have thought I'd be taking on. Um, so yeah, I think I'm becoming, I don't want to say like a jack of all trades, but maybe a little bit. Like I'm learning a lot about different various areas. Um, it'd be great to sort of focus in a little bit, but I think with using AI, like we have to like touch all these different things. So I'm not sure if I'll end up being very like hyper focused on one area or not, but I think I'm becoming a very broad engineer right now.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's a good
And there's
strategy
so
in
much to
today's
learn.
world, which is really really
Yes.
fast changing. Yeah, cool. Last question, and that's my usual one. Take home message. If you know anyone who just watched us and listened to us for almost 30 minutes, should take just one thing with them,
It's a
what
good
it should
one.
be.
I think it might be actually. I liked your question so much that I think I'm gonna take it and like flip it a little. But thinking about not just like what does my job look like in 3 years, because it will change, and I don't think any of us know what it will actually look like. But I like what you said, and I think I'm taking that with me. So I hope other people take it with them. Like what other areas do you have control over? Like what would I be proud of? What would you like to do? What is something that interests you? So that's what I would have someone take away from, is like think about the future in a little bit different lens.
That's a great one, and I
Yeah,
will take it with me
you're the
too.
inspiration. You definitely get to
So
take it.
yeah, thank you, and yeah, thank you that you came to Software Engineering Tales, and see you around. I'm hoping it's not the last time we spoke, and
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.